The Azure crown. The champagne flute trembled in my hand as I stared at the text message. After building a billion-dollar empire from scratch, my own mother still thought I was too poor to afford dinner at a restaurant I secretly owned. My name is Lily Harper, and at 25, I had become the youngest CEO to ever build a global hospitality empire. Yet, my family still saw me as the disappointing daughter who had failed to meet their impossible standards. Tonight, that perception would finally shatter. 3 hours earlier, I had been sitting in the executive boardroom of Azure Hospitality Group, my company, reviewing the acquisition papers for our 36th property. My assistant knocked softly before entering with a concerned expression. "Miss Harper, you have a message from your mother," she said, handing me my personal phone. I glanced at the screen and felt that familiar knot form in my stomach. "Don't come to Dad's birthday tonight. It's at Grand Azure. You can't afford it anyway. Don't embarrass the family." The message was from my mother, Catherine Blackwell, a woman who had spent my entire life making me feel inadequate compared to my older sister Miranda. I set the phone down carefully and looked around the mahogany-paneled room where I had just approved a $500 million expansion deal. The irony was almost amusing. My mother was telling me I couldn't afford to eat at Grand Azure, the flagship hotel of my own company. "Everything all right, Miss Harper?" my assistant asked, noticing my expression. "Cancel my evening appointments," I said quietly, "and call Marcus. Tell him to prepare the black Bentley. I have a family reunion to attend." As I prepared to leave, I called my head of security, James Mitchell, a former FBI agent who had been with me since the beginning. "James, I need you at Grand Azure tonight. Full detail. And make sure Chef Romano is aware I'll be dining there this evening." "Of course, Miss Harper. Should I prepare the executive suite?" "No," I said, a plan forming in my mind. "Tonight, I want to start as just another guest. Let's see how long that lasts." An hour later, I stood before my full-length mirror, adjusting the simple but elegant black dress I had chosen. It was understated, nothing flashy, but I knew the discerning eye would recognize the craftsmanship. My jewelry was minimal, just the diamond earrings I had bought myself after my first million in revenue. The drive to Grand Azure gave me time to think. My family had always favored Miranda, my 30-year-old sister who had married a successful prosecutor named Ryan Crawford. They were the golden couple in my parents' eyes, beautiful, accomplished, and socially connected. Meanwhile, I had been dismissed as a dreamer when I announced my intention to start my own business fresh out of college. "Hospitality?" My father had laughed. "You mean you want to be a waitress with delusions of grandeur?" That comment had stung more than any physical blow could have. From that moment, I had been determined to prove him wrong, but no matter how successful I became, my family continued to treat me like the black sheep who had chosen a frivolous career path. As my Bentley pulled up to the valet stand at Grand Azure, I could see the crowd gathered in the lobby through the floor-to-ceiling windows. The hotel was my crown jewel, a 40-story masterpiece of modern architecture that had won international design awards. Every detail, from the imported Italian marble floors to the custom crystal chandeliers, had been my personal choice. I approached the entrance and immediately spotted Miranda near the reception desk. She was wearing a glittering silver gown that probably cost more than most people's cars, standing beside Ryan in his expensive suit. They were holding court with several well-dressed guests, and I could hear Miranda's laugh echoing across the lobby. As I walked toward them, Miranda's gaze fell on me, and her expression immediately shifted to one of disdain. Well?" she called out loudly enough for everyone to hear. "Look what the cat dragged in." I maintained my composure as I approached the group. "Hello, Miranda, Ryan." I nodded politely to the guests, recognizing several prominent business leaders from the city. "I'm surprised you could afford the taxi fare here," Miranda continued, her voice dripping with fake concern. "Mom said you were having financial troubles. Are you here looking for a job? I hear they're hiring in the kitchen." Several of the guests shifted uncomfortably, clearly embarrassed by Miranda's cruelty. Ryan put his hand on her arm as if to quiet her, but I could see the smug satisfaction in his eyes. They were enjoying this public humiliation. "Actually," I said calmly, "I'm here for Dad's birthday. I believe I was invited." "Invited?" Miranda laughed. "Sweetie, this is a VIP event. The dinner alone costs more than you probably make in a month. Maybe you should try the coffee shop down the street. It's more your speed." That's when my mother appeared, looking flustered. Catherine Blackwell was still a beautiful woman at 55, though her face had been carefully maintained through years of expensive treatments. She wore a burgundy dress that complemented her perfectly styled blonde hair. "Lily," she said sharply, "what are you doing here? I told you not to come." "I wanted to celebrate Dad's 60th birthday," I replied evenly. "Surely there's room for one more guest." "This is embarrassing," my mother hissed. "Look around you. These are successful people, important people. What will they think when they see you here pretending to be someone you're not?" Before I could respond, my father appeared from the direction of the bar. Victor Blackwell was an imposing man even at 60, with silver hair and the bearing of someone accustomed to command. He owned a successful chain of luxury car dealerships and had always measured success purely in financial terms. "Lily," he said, his voice carefully neutral. "I didn't expect to see you here." "Happy birthday, Dad," I said, offering him a small wrapped package. "I brought you something." Miranda intercepted the gift before my father could take it. "Oh, please," she said, shaking it dismissively. "What could you possibly give him that he doesn't already have? A coupon for a free car wash?" The group of guests was watching this family drama unfold with obvious discomfort. I recognized several faces from business magazines, including Margaret Chen, the CEO of a major investment firm, and David Rodriguez, who owned half the commercial real estate in the city. These were people whose respect my family craved, and they were witnessing this petty cruelty firsthand. "You know what?" Miranda continued, warming to her audience. "Since you're here, why don't you tell everyone what you do for work? I'm sure they'd love to hear about your little hobby." "Miranda," Ryan warned quietly, finally sensing that his wife was going too far. "No, it's fine," Miranda said, her voice getting louder. "Lily here thinks she's an entrepreneur. She plays around with some little catering business or something equally quaint. Don't you, sweetie?" I felt a familiar calm settle over me. It was the same feeling I got in high-stakes business negotiations, when emotions had to be set aside for strategy. "Actually," I said quietly, "I'd be happy to tell everyone about my work." "This should be good," Miranda smirked, turning to address the gathered guests. "Ladies and gentlemen, my baby sister is about to tell us all about her adorable little business venture." That's when James Mitchell appeared at my elbow, as if materializing from thin air. He was wearing his usual dark suit and earpiece, every inch the professional bodyguard. "Miss Harper," he said respectfully, "your table is ready." Chef Romano wanted to confirm the wine pairing for this evening's tasting menu. The lobby fell silent. I could feel every eye on me as the implications of James's words sank in. My mother's face went pale, and Miranda's smug expression began to falter. "Thank you, James," I said calmly. "Please tell Chef Romano that the pairing he suggested will be perfect, and make sure the executive dining room is prepared for my family's arrival." "Of course, Miss Harper. Will you be needing the penthouse suite tonight, or will you be returning to your residence?" "I think I'll stay tonight," I said, enjoying the shocked silence around me. "It's been a long day." Miranda found her voice first, though it came out as more of a croak. "Miss Harper?" "James Mitchell, head of security for Azure Hospitality Group," I said by way of introduction. "James, I'd like you to meet my family. I believe some introductions are in order." My father was staring at me as if seeing me for the first time. "Lily, what is he talking about? Azure Hospitality Group?" "Well, Dad," I said, finally allowing myself a small smile. "That's my company. I'm the founder and CEO of Azure Hospitality Group. We own and operate 36 luxury hotels worldwide, including this one." The silence that followed was deafening. I could see Margaret Chen's eyes widen with recognition. She had obviously heard of my company, even if she hadn't connected me to it personally. David Rodriguez was nodding slowly, as if pieces of a puzzle were finally falling into place. "That's impossible," Miranda whispered. "Azure Hospitality Group is worth billions. 3.7 billion, to be exact, as of our last valuation." I confirmed. "I started the company 5 years ago with a $100,000 loan and a single bed and breakfast in Vermont. We went public last year." Chef Romano appeared then, a distinguished man in his 50s who had trained at Le Cordon Bleu. He approached me with obvious deference. "Miss Harper, welcome back. I've prepared your father's favorite dish for this evening's celebration, the lobster thermidor with the wine reduction you suggested." "Perfect, Romano," I said. "And please make sure my family is seated at the Emperor's table. I believe they've never experienced our full service." My mother had gone completely white. She was staring at me as if I had just announced I was an alien from another planet. "Lily, I don't understand. How is this possible?" 5 years of 18-hour days," I said simply. 5 years of building something from nothing while you all assumed I was playing dress-up with a lemonade stand." Miranda was looking around desperately, as if searching for an escape route. "But you never said anything. You never told us you were successful." "Would you have believed me?" I asked, "or would you have found new ways to diminish what I had accomplished?" Ryan cleared his throat awkwardly. "Lily, I think there's been a misunderstanding. We never meant to suggest that you weren't capable of success." I turned to him with raised eyebrows. "Really? Because 10 minutes ago your wife was suggesting I apply for a job washing dishes." Margaret Chen stepped forward then, extending her hand with a knowing smile. "Miss Harper, I've been trying to arrange a meeting with you for months. My firm has been very interested in your expansion into the Asian markets." "Of course," I said, shaking her hand warmly. "Why don't we discuss it over dinner? I'd love to hear your thoughts on the Singapore project." David Rodriguez joined the conversation. "Miss Harper, I believe my company manages several of the properties you lease for your hotel developments." I had no idea we were dealing with such a young visionary. As more of the guests began to recognize my name and approach me with eager smiles, I watched my family's expressions shift from shock to something approaching panic. They were watching their social standing realign in real time, and they didn't know how to handle it. "Lily?" my father said quietly, pulling me aside. "I owe you an apology. We all do. I had no idea you had achieved so much." "Dad," I said gently, "you didn't know because you never asked. In 5 years, not one of you ever asked me what I was actually doing with my life. You just assumed I was failing because success didn't look the way you expected it to." My mother approached us then, tears threatening to spill from her carefully applied makeup. "Sweetheart, I'm so sorry. I sent that horrible text message. I was trying to protect you from embarrassment, but I see now that I was the one who should have been embarrassed." "Mom," I said, "I forgave you for that text the moment I received it, but I need you to understand something. I didn't build this company to prove anything to you or Dad or Miranda. I built it because I love what I do, and I'm good at it. Your approval would have been nice, but it was never necessary." Miranda had been listening to this exchange with growing desperation. Finally, she burst out, "Lily, I'm sorry too. I was jealous, okay? You always seemed so confident, so sure of yourself, even when we all thought you were making a mistake. I guess I wanted to see you fail because it would have made me feel better about my own choices." I looked at my sister, really looked at her, for perhaps the first time in years. Beneath the designer gown and perfect makeup, I could see the insecurity that had driven her cruelty. "Miranda," I said softly, "you have a successful career as a marketing director, a husband who loves you, and 2 beautiful children. Why do you need me to fail for you to feel successful?" She didn't have an answer for that, which was answer enough. James approached us then with his usual discretion. "Miss Harper, your table is ready whenever you'd like to be seated." "Thank you, James." I turned to my family. "I'd like you all to join me for dinner, as my guests, but I need you to understand that things are going to be different from now on. I won't tolerate disrespect or dismissive comments about my life or my choices. If you can't treat me with basic human dignity, then we simply won't have a relationship." My father nodded gravely. "Of course, Lily. You have our word." As we moved toward the elevator that would take us to the executive dining room, I handed my father the small package Miranda had intercepted earlier. "This is for you, Dad. I hope you like it." He opened it carefully, revealing a set of keys attached to a silver keychain. "What are these for?" "The cabin in Aspen," I said casually. "I bought it last month. I thought you and Mom might enjoy having a place to escape to. Consider it a belated birthday gift." My father stared at the keys as if they were made of plutonium. "Lily, you can't give me a house. That's too much." "Dad," I said with a smile, "I can afford it. Trust me." As we rode up in the elevator, I caught my reflection in the polished brass doors. The woman looking back at me was confident, successful, and finally, truly free. I had spent so many years craving my family's approval that I had forgotten the most important thing. I didn't need it. The executive dining room was a masterpiece of elegant design, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a spectacular view of the city lights below. The table was set with the finest china and crystal, and every detail spoke of understated luxury. As we settled into our seats, Margaret Chen raised her wine glass. "A toast," she said, "to Miss Harper, for reminding us all that success comes in many forms, and sometimes the most impressive achievements are the ones we least expect." The dinner that followed was unlike any family gathering I had ever experienced. Instead of being dismissed or ignored, I found myself at the center of conversations about business strategy, market trends, and global expansion. My family listened with genuine interest as I explained how I had identified underserved markets and built a brand around authentic hospitality experiences. "You know," my father said as we finished the main course, "I always wondered why you chose hospitality as your field. I thought it was because you didn't have the ambition for something more challenging." "Actually," I said, "I chose hospitality because I understood something that a lot of business leaders miss. People don't just want a place to sleep when they travel. They want to feel cared for, valued, respected. They want to feel like they matter. It's not really about hotels at all. It's about creating moments where people feel seen and appreciated." My mother looked at me with newfound understanding. "Like what you needed from us," she said quietly. "Like what everyone needs," I corrected gently. "The difference is I figured out how to give it to myself." As the evening wound down, Miranda pulled me aside. "Lily, I know I can't undo all the horrible things I've said over the years, but I want you to know that I'm proud of you. I'm proud to be your sister." "Thank you," I said. "That means more to me than you know." Later that night, after my family had gone home and the hotel had settled into its quiet late-night rhythm, I stood in my penthouse office, looking out over the city. This building, this company, this life I had created, it was all mine. Not because I had been given it, but because I had earned it. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. "Thank you for including us tonight. We love you, and we're sorry it took us so long to see who you really are." I smiled as I typed back, "I love you too, and Mom? Next time maybe ask before assuming you know what I can afford." Her response came immediately. From now on, I'm asking about everything. Starting with, how did my daughter become so wise? As I prepared to leave the office, I picked up the family photo that sat on my desk. It was old, from a vacation we had taken when I was 12. In it, we all looked happy, genuinely connected. For the first time in years, I thought that kind of happiness might be possible again. The next morning, I woke up in my penthouse suite to find that news of the previous evening's revelations had somehow made it into the business press. My assistant had already fielded dozens of interview requests, and my phone was buzzing with congratulations from colleagues and competitors alike. But the message that meant the most came from my father. Lily, I've been thinking about what you said last night about creating moments where people feel valued. I realize I failed to do that for my own daughter. I'd like to learn how to be better. Could we have lunch this week? My treat. At wherever you recommend. I smiled as I typed back. How about the little cafe downtown? The one where I used to work weekends during college. They have excellent coffee, and it's where I first started dreaming about what I could build. Perfect, he replied. I'd like to hear about those dreams, all of them. As I got ready for another day of running my empire, I reflected on how much had changed in a single evening. I was still the same person who had walked into Grand Azure the night before, but now my family saw me clearly for the first time. More importantly, I saw myself clearly too. I had built Azure Hospitality Group to prove that I was worthy of respect and recognition. But somewhere along the way, I had discovered something more valuable. I didn't need anyone else's validation to know my own worth. The empire I had created was just the external expression of an internal truth I had always carried. I was enough, exactly as I was. The irony wasn't lost on me. In trying to show my family that I deserved their respect, I had learned that I didn't need it. Their approval was wonderful to have, but it was no longer necessary for my happiness. That realization was worth more than all the hotels, all the money, and all the recognition in the world. As I headed down to start another day, I knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, I would face them with the confidence that comes from knowing exactly who you are and what you're capable of achieving. And that knowledge, unlike any external validation, could never be taken away.